Good morning, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to my channel. It's called McDuff, Kennedy's Man to Smash the CIA, except for it's not, because the YouTube gods decided that we violated their terms of service. And with no further explanation than that, I was gone. But I'm not gone because I'm here at McDuff 2020. McDuff underscore 2020. Please make the note of the underscore so we are all on the same page, as it were. Yeah, I'm going to continue here on YouTube as long as I can because I think YouTube has the most reach. It's it's just a fact of life. It's like, do you want to get something from Amazon or do you want to not get it? Well, we work with what we have to. Not that we like it. It's just the way it is. It is what it is, and deal with it. I'm not in charge. You know, nobody think of me as a guru either. I don't know what the heck everybody needs to do except for follow your conscience and make sure you have a conscience and make sure your kids have a conscience. And if people that you know don't have a conscience, then stay away from them because they will screw you over at some point, as we learn from history time and time again. And isn't that really what it all comes down to? Do we humans in the 21st century, are we going to fall into the trap of going back to the mystery religions? Are we going to fall into the trap of believing that life is just a passage and everybody goes through it and it's the tree of life and you fall to the bottom and then you get re-energized and you come back again? And it's just this, this idea that goes back to the ancient religions, the ancient Manichaean religions that have been used in modeling the Christian fundamentalists that have been created by the CIA, by Foster Dulles, by people that like Pat Robertson, who is a CIA man. He's a cutout. So are we going to fall back into the old religion of mystery and sacrifice, terror, and short, brutal lives? I don't think we are. I mean, some of us are obviously haven't escaped that in many parts of the world, and I can't speak for them, but I can speak for those of us that have grown up in a civilized society, that we're not going to go back to that Babylonian BS. You know, you can try to sell it any way you want to through Madame Blavatsky or the Tavistocks or the Aquinos and all of the crazy sexual perversions and your Moloch and your all of that crap. We're not going there. You can't dumb us down that much. Humanity has advanced beyond that. You know, it's like if you ever broke up with an old flame and, there was really good reasons that you broke up, right? But then time goes along and time goes by and maybe one night you're lonesome and you call that person up and then, oh boy, it's not good. You don't want to go back. You've been there, done that. And this the same thing with these crazy mystery religions. I don't mind looking at them. I've read a whole lot of that stuff, and this is kind of my digestion of it in view of today's situation, because that, in my mind, is the spiritual war. And it's simply the same thing that I've been saying all along. It is the rule of gold versus the golden rule. And if you're going to worship Baal, with a golden calf, with all of your ceremonies and your sacrifices and your smelly robes and your incense, and worse, what you will do to prove that you don't believe in the goodness of humanity by doing terrible things to human people, just to prove that you are willing to be a servant of this mystery, devil-oriented, satanic cult for the sake of your own, few days, few years on earth. And humanity is not there anymore, I think, Christianity is an excellent model of the transition that has been made, where we don't want to live in a world where we're constantly afraid of violating rules or getting whipped like a sailor on a British warship, or a slave. We don't want to live that way, motivated by pain on the one hand and pleasure on the other hand. Pleasure, of course, being supplied by them at a good price for their own enrichment. So I like the golden rule, and I think most people in this country like the golden rule. And if we all practice the golden rule, then we will have that idyllic world that John Lennon sang about and imagined, and we will give peace a chance. But we will also hear the children crying. We will have to hear the children crying and take care of each and every one of them as we would ask to be taken care of or to have our children taken care of. So universal, is universal, and it has nothing to do with race, and it has nothing to do with wealth or national income or the language you speak or the color of your skin or what your hair looks like. It's universal, and love is the answer. It's not war. This is the situation we've been in since, for a long time. But let's just say from World War II for the sake of this. And one of the great books that I read in my series is The Seeds of Destruction by William Engdahl, and he identifies one of my principal culprits, villains, trying to teach us that humanity is basically just a bunch of animals and need to be extinguished when necessary. Trying to teach us that, in other words, that we have to worship the empire and the gods of the empire or Baal or whoever you want to say, and make those sacrifices. Sacrifice our fellow humans to evil on the strange theory that somehow we're going to achieve good in the end. And this is what I need to read, and I've read it many times, and I'm going to read it again, and it's written by George F. Keenan, Keenan. And by way of introduction, when I studied government at William & Mary in the 70s, George F. Keenan was quite well known among us students as the author of the containment policy, the key to the Cold War, where, they said, well, every communist country is going to be starting a bunch of dominoes of the countries next to it, and we've got to stop it, so we built a wall of containment. Well, that wasn't really George Kennan that decided that, but it was his language that was used, and so he became famous and sounds like an intellectual and one of those good guys at the State Department that you probably ought to listen to. Well, you really do need to listen to him, because here is the essence of what's going on right now, today, in the world. Quote, and this is 1948, George F. Keenan. We have about 50% of the world's wealth, but only 6% of its population. This disparity is particularly great between ourselves and the peoples of Asia. In this situation, we cannot fail to be the object of envy and resentment. Our real task in the coming period is to devise a pattern of relationships which will permit us to maintain this position of disparity without positive detriment to our national security. To do so, we will have to dispense with all sentimentality and daydreaming, and our attention will have to be concentrated everywhere on our immediate national objectives. We need not deceive ourselves that we can afford today the luxury of altruism and world benefaction. George Kennan. Same exact logic that put Jews in the gas chambers. The same exact logic that put Jews in the gas chambers. The same exact logic that created the death camps for disabled, elderly, anybody that wasn't favored could be disposed of, and it was logical. Why? In order to preserve the disparity between, the people that worked with George F. Kennan and his elite ivory tower and the rest of the world. So this is what's going on and has been going on since the Federal Reserve folks and go back to Teddy Roosevelt in inserting British agents into our intelligence services, and then it all goes back to foreign interference in this republic, and generally that foreign interference has come from London, not the people of Britain, but the banks and the oligarchs that control the real money of Britain, as well, I think, as Europe, as European money fled from Europe as a result of the Second World War. Michael Laurat, you say Kennan was the basis of PNAC. Isn't that great? That is a great connection, and I'd like to see a little bit of literature on that, Michael, but I know you know what you're talking about. Well, this is it, right? This is the project for the new American century. But it's not for Americans. No, it's just for the elites that control America. And I'm not talking about the presidents. I'm talking about the big bucks. And that money's not really necessarily even in America, is it? I picture it all in vaults in Switzerland and in Antarctica, places where we'll never get to it. So here's my theory of today. My theory of today is follow the the Yellowcake road. Because let's just review what we've studied the past week or so about the Belt and Road. Okay, that's the road I'm talking about, because the Belt and Road from Iran to the coast of China, the Pacific ports, that is the old Marco Polo Silk Road. And that has been the object of economic planners for hundreds of years. Maybe even more than that, maybe 1,000 or more years. The idea of having a safe and secure trade route from Europe through the Middle East or through Iran and through Kazakhstan into China and all of the people there. So the people that make money off of transportation, which the great icon of that to me is Cornelius Vanderbilt, right? The idea that you on the open seas are going to engage in ruthless capitalist competition, not caring about anybody or anything except for making money on this particular voyage, and then setting up whole lines of shipping that are going to do that for you. That is that no holds barred free trade that we hear about, the liberal trade, free trade, in other words, cutthroat trade that existed and still exists on the high seas. And who benefits from that but the traders? Because they're the ones that make the extra money for going through the dangerous places, and they're the ones that are taking the risks, and you have to pay them because you want to be safe and sound in your townhouse in London. So it has been described by many people. I'm going to start with James Corbett and then add Lyndon LaRouche and Harley Schlanger and everyone at LaRouche Pack for spelling out, which you can study it, and it's something we have to understand, is the competition between the German continental Bismarck-oriented system of protecting your industry, growing your ability to take care of your own people, being self-sufficient, taking advantage of the internal lines of communication in a country like Germany or the United States, and not relying on ports and ships and transportation systems for wealth, because who needs it if you have everything without them? Sustaining the artificial need for all this transportation has been the effort of the British Empire for 200 and some years. And the way they've done it is by exploiting other people. And the way that they have justified that has been really, if you look into Freemasonry and all their Babylonian, Egyptian symbolism and secret society rituals and handshakes and symbols and signs, isn't that taking humanity back into the ancient mystery religions? Isn't the mystery in Freemasonry one example of a mystery religion? And isn't that also what's going on with the Catholic Church and the Jesuits, where they want everyone to be a Catholic and to do whatever the Pope says, no matter what? These are aberrations of Christianity. These are not the golden rule that Jesus taught in my idea of Christianity. These are me first religions, and they're based on racism, other isms, but also I think the idea that humanity itself is not trustworthy, is garbage, is born with original sin in some religions, and or otherwise nobody can be trusted unless you have gone to school with them, joined the same fraternity, while your parents work for the same bank. Other than that, you can't trust anybody, and I think there's a lot of that attitude that has shaped our country. So now we know that from the great research of Mark Kulak and George Webb, Bill Taylor, and so many others, that this nuclear energy deal with smaller, compact nuclear reactors that we learned about from Fletcher Prouty in the 70s, right? They had been building them then that would fit into a Volkswagen. Well, now they've got them in a suitcase or smaller. But they can take these things and put them on way stations along the Belt and Road. And what are they for? They're like batteries. They're going to sit there and supply the power to the transportation system. And this will enable the owners of said transportation system to control the economy of the world through the possession of this line of communication that has been sought after for decades and centuries and fought against by the British. So here's what it looks like right now. It looks like people like Warren Buffett and other of the huge faces of big piles of wealth have been investing in the expedition of the clearing of the Silk Road, of the creating of these facilities, and the ownership mainly of a whole lot of stockpiled nuclear power. In Kazakhstan, they have a bank, a uranium bank it's called. Well, what's that for? What's that for? Well, let's go back to our cutthroat capitalists, right? What does a cutthroat capitalist do? Well, he saves up a lot of capital, or in this case, power through uranium modular uranium reactors or nuclear reactors. I don't know the technical name for them, but little reactors that you can swap out when you need to, maintain and take care of. And you are going to do this on a massive scale to provide transportation along the old Silk Road. Well, you're going to have enough of that stored up to sell it very, very cheap. Very, very cheap at the beginning until you wipe out all the competition. Just like Vanderbilt did. And because you have that great big pile of money sitting in Switzerland or Antarctica or Kazakhstan under a big mountain, and you have all of the uranium in your uranium bank, then you have got yourself a Yellowcake road. And who paid for it? We did. But who got it? They did. And how did they do it? By infiltrating our country, our insinuating into our military, our taking over the State Department, owning the CIA, infiltrating the FBI, infiltrating every single military asset, creating JSOC and a Joint System of Command, putting focal point officers in key positions so that whenever the director of Central Intelligence wanted something, he had no problem getting it. Just talk to the guy over there, you know, back there with the little sign on his door that says Department of Paperclips. So that's what I think is going on, is that what's at stake here in the U.S. election is a lot of the investments that have been made in this grab for the Belt and Road that we've uncovered, and Team W and Housatonic and everybody else. I mean, it's happening as everything else is being uncovered, as this election fraud is being uncovered. This whole big picture is being uncovered. And as it is, sadly for me and my family, the suspicions I have about what happened to my dad are also becoming more and more. I'm less able to think, oh, I'm just, So all of this stuff is turning into a very clear picture to me of a bunch of elite, self-entitled, arrogant people centered around the Ivy Leagues and Boston and the Yale and the Manhattan and Princeton and Stanford and where else? You know all the places as well as I do, and I'm sure I'll miss some. But it's all these people that think that they have. First of all, they have enough intellectual ability to sort this all out. That's the first great item of arrogance, because nobody's that smart, but they think they are. And number two, they think that just because they were born to a certain family or in a certain place, that they are superior. Maybe they think they've got better blood or blue blood or some nonsense like that because that's what their family tradition has been for hundreds of years, that they are the nobles, they are the royals, they are the leaders, natural leaders. Number three, they think that people that are not within their class or their elite status are somehow not entitled to the same rights that they are. That they have the Bill of Rights, but we don't. That their rights always trump ours. Well, how can you be that way after seeing the World War II with the whole idea of it that the Nazis were those people and we got rid of them? And now you're letting it inhabit in your heart? Classmates of my dad, sons of those people, daughters of those people, allowing this fallacy to exist in their social understanding of the world? This is Spencer, this is Galton, this is Clyde Davenport, this is the crap of Cold Spring Harbor. It's all, you can't defend it in any way. And yet, your system that you're living within depends upon people actually believing that there's a superior people and you're part of it. And so you don't share the technology you have. Why? Because we can't handle it, or because if we had it, then your wealth would disappear? I think it's probably the second. So, oh my, how did the Germans let it happen? Please, don't ever try to speculate how the Germans let it happen without studying how the Vatican let it happen. Because that's where it began, and it began in Italy. And yeah, if Pope Pius XII hadn't let it happen, then the German people wouldn't have let it happen. But because most of them were still Catholic and fairly uneducated, they did what the priests said. That's the bottom line. It's not about how stupid they were or that they got brainwashed. No, these people are religious people. And, Pius XII took advantage of them and decided to purify the human race with the help of a bunch of dummies like Adolf Hitler. All right, I'm sure I'm going to get banned for that. Just my theory, guys. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. John Cornwell could be wrong. Yeah, you can't just listen to, people like Mark Aarons or John Loftus or any people on them like that, because they could be wrong. And I could be wrong. So we just have to maintain our belief in the sanctity of human life, in the sanctity of children, in our duty to assist the poor and the disabled and people who have had a bad lot in life, you know. Um, keep help those whose chances grow thinner, as Marley says, and the people's chances do grow thinner. People who are living on Social Security and the prices go up. People who are relying on their medical insurance and the prescription prices go up. People who have, bought into the American diet, the crazy American diet with all the sugar and the GMOs and all of that crap. And now they're facing the health consequences that are going to drain all their wealth, leave them and their heirs penniless, trying to overcome things that they were poisoned with during their lives. It's like cigarettes, There's no secret about cigarettes. The Nazis knew it. And although you'll see examples of Nazis, German soldiers smoking, by and large, the German people were forbidden to smoke. And that was because Hitler was protecting his Aryan base. Don't drink, don't smoke, and don't adulterate the food products. Well, what happens in America right after the war? Everybody's taught to drink, to smoke, and to adulterate the food products. And now we have, epidemics of heart attacks and cancer and everything that comes along with it. So these people, the elites, are pulling a fast one on us, using our blood and sweat and tears and veterans and heroes to enhance their own safety because, they're more important. And in order to do that, they have decided to throw away their sense of morality, to, as George F. Kennan says, we cannot deceive ourselves that we can afford today the luxury of altruism. The luxury of altruism. Altruism is humanity. The word humane. It's not a luxury, it is a natural state of mankind. No matter how many times you would like to convince us that we all have Jack the Ripper in our hearts, we know that's just a bad damn book, a bad damn movie, and a whole bunch of propaganda. We know it's propaganda. We know that we are not born with some kind of evil streak in us. We understand that. You're the ones that keep pushing these myths at us, so that we'll be divided and suspicious. And instead of being peaceful, we will be pacified. That was my yesterday's theme in my third part of the series on The Secret Team by Fletcher Prouty yesterday. You'll notice it's called Peace or Pacification. And the difference is being happy or being miserable. And they want us pacified. Maybe they're dropping lithium out of airplanes on us. Maybe they've done that for years. Maybe that's why California never rises up. I don't know. But they're doing whatever they can to keep us pacified while they complete their plans on the Yellowcake Road. Because once the people that own the City of London money own the Yellowcake Road, you see, then no longer is there any conflict. They own not only the seas, but also the land. And the reason for all those European wars disappears because all the money goes into the same place, whether it's London or some vault in Antarctica. It's their money. And they have now got the technology of these nuclear things. It's another thing to think about, though, is the faulty technology of nuclear energy. You know, they've been selling us, hey, look at Chernobyl, look at 3 Mile Island, look at Fukushima. They're waving it at us. They're saying, look, nuclear energy is dangerous. It could be leaky, could have accidents. Just like cigarettes, you know. They say, well, you know what? You only live once. Enjoy your cigarette. You only live once. Take us up on this Yellowcake Road. Let us take care of all your transportation needs for a very, very low price. And yeah, you know, radiation's everywhere. What can we do about it? It's, you know, it's Fukushima, it's World War II, it's Bimini Island, it's all of those atmospheric tests in there. Sorry, guys, but we're all going to get radiation now. You know, but maybe that's all just been predictive programming for us to expect to get sick when they implement these modular nuclear reactors. The other part of it is clearing the road, which is the old rat line idea that George Webb has taught us about. And it's just so sad to think that maybe this whole thing that's hit Iran so bad, the COVID that's hit them worse than everywhere else, or other places where maybe are not reported, but happen to be in places that they want to have cleared for their new Silk Road. The horrific ideas that they have executed under the name of national security have been really in the name of personal security of themselves and the people that they bank with and the people that they work for and the top of their pyramid, you know, that pyramid on the back of the dollar bill. I do believe, you know, and Prouty would agree with me that using oil as the only propulsion has been a financial game that's been played on us by them, by the Rockefellers and the Morgans and the Rothschilds, and to create artificial scarcity, charge a good price for it, and then, you know, whenever it's convenient to them, they can switch over to their nuclear power once they've conquered all of the parts of their scheme. Michael Lorette, it's all being run out of the Walsh School of Foreign Service at Georgetown. I didn't know that. I heard about Carol Quigley and Bill Clinton going there, but I didn't know they were running the whole thing. You know, I'm a Georgetown graduate. Maybe I could go ask them. Hey, you know, Father Walsh, you know, is it true? You guys really running everything out of there? Are you? Tell me. Come on, you can trust me. I'm a Georgetown grad. I don't know, Michael. I'd have to see a little bit of proof for that. Zero-point energy is going to cost us more than half of human lives on Earth. Maybe so. Maybe the whole idea is to get it down to Ted Turner's $500 million, you know, on his Georgia Guidestones there. I don't know what their idea is, but as long as we keep peeling off the layers and exposing them before they do it, that's what George Webb is so good at. How many things do you think we've avoided? How many bullets have we dodged just because George has been on the case? I like LaRouche Pack and especially been enjoying talking to Harley Schlanger. I'll be back with him again in I think about 10 days. We'll get back together. Next week I have the great Bill Taylor, and he's got a new article out which is very fascinating about the election. Um, Addie Ads and Aaron Adler, David Underdown, uh, Tom, and all the other folks up at Neighborhood News Hour. A shout out to you guys for a tremendous, tremendous coverage of the election in Michigan, Ohio, and Wisconsin. The best coverage we could ask for. So we'll close this show by saying, hey, follow the Yellowcake Road. You want to see what's going on? Watch them with their little portable nuclear reactors and the Uranium Bank of Kazakhstan is something to keep an eye on. Um, are they going to pull it off? Is President Trump actually going to expose it and stop this colossal ripoff? Sounds like the lead in to the next edition of McDuff's Mindfields right here on McDuff _2020.